Hey everyone, it's Timmy Gobbles, and today I'm going to be looking back at my digging tutorial that had some issues in it. This was brought up by Gaming 90s Baby, who pointed out that when you dig a specific tile, it affects all of the tiles of the same type. So here I'm going to dig just these dirt tiles, and you'll see that eventually the health runs out for dirt tiles, and then they all get broken by one hit. And that horrible beeping noise is the noise I put in to represent digging. So either ignore that or who knows. Anyways, so this is an issue, and also there was a bit of a frame drop issue when I was digging. So what I'm going to do to fix this is I'm going to make a new class called Breakable, and it's going to inherit from Sprite 2D. And so the idea is I'm going to spawn one of these over a tile that the player digs, and it's going to hold the health value of that tile. And when the player should have broken that tile, it's going to send out a signal, and that'll tell main that it's time to clear that tile out. And this should fix the issue in question. So it's going to need some signals, and I think I'm going to have one for when it breaks, two that are, I'm going to add an area 2D to it as well. That's so I can keep track of whether or not the mouse is on top of it. So one for mouse on, one for mouse off, and eventually I might add another one, I don't know. And I set up this export bar for a texture, and eventually I got rid of it, but the goal of that was to change the texture as it takes damage, but maybe that's for another day. I've also set up the area 2D to emit these signals when the mouse enters and the mouse exits. I also want this to track damage of sort. So we need a health variable, and we need a function that takes an integer and reduces that health variable. And when the health variable takes more damage than it has left, it needs to signal that the tile needs to break. I threw in the ready function, but I don't think I ended up using it. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick something from my tile map to represent that the player has dealt damage to a tile. So that when we spawn these, we can see them. Because if you can't see them, then it's hard to tell what's going on. So I picked this railroad track that looks kind of like a mining pick. Next in main, I'm going to add a no 2D that's just going to hold these breakables. And I'll go ahead and export it so that I know where to put them in. And while I'm at it, I'm going to export a pack scene for that breakable so that it's easy to spawn them in. I need to hook up those exports. All right, next, I need some functions for when a breakable sends a signal out, and that way main can listen to it. And remember, it's sending a signal when the mouse hovers over it and when the mouse exits. So I need one for each of those. Next, I noticed that I'm calculating this mouse tile a bit too often. I'm already keeping it as a variable, so I'm going to go ahead and just try to access that variable instead of calculating it every time the player sends out a signal. One thing I don't think I included in the tutorial was I take the mouse position and find the cell in the tile map, and I set that as kind of like a cursor. And one of the things I wanted to do was make that not show if the tile map has an empty cell there. So what I can do is I can get that atlas coordinate and check if it's equal to vector 2i -1 -1. And if that's true, then not put that little mouse cursor over it. So now it's showing on a set tile, but not on empty space. And I'm rendering that in the player labeled 1 on the tile map instead of 0, because otherwise that would change the terrain, and I don't want to do that. All right, next we want to keep track of the moused over breakable in main. So when the breakable sends the mouse on and moused off signals, it's going to send a reference to itself. So then if we have a new mouse tile, a moused breakable, then we need to set that reference in main equal to that. And if we've moused off, we need to set that reference to null if it equals the reference that's currently being held. All right, so next, when the player sends a digging signal, we need to see if we have an active moused breakable. And if we do, we want to damage it. And if we did damage one, we want to return and not do anything else after. Okay, now we want to think about what happens if there isn't a mouse diggable. So I've got this old code that's bad because it changes the data later. So we'll just comment that out. But if there is tile data, I do want to do some stuff. So I want to make a new breakable at the correct location. Sometimes it takes the editor a minute to remember that stuff exists. So sometimes I have to take the typing out. Okay, so the diggable starting health is going to be that tile data health minus the player's dig value. And if the player's dig value is greater than the tile data health, we want to just go ahead and get rid of the cell, not even spawn the breakable. And again, we can exit after, so we can use the return statement. Okay, so let's work on more of the new breakable code. So if we take that mouse tile and call the map to local function from the tile map, we can convert that into a position rather than a tile. All right, and we also need to connect up the signals so that they call correctly to main, or rather that main listens to them when they emit. And I want that broken function as well. So when a breakable breaks, we want to clear the cell where the breakable was. And that looks pretty good so far. What else do I need to do? Oh, the sound. When do I need to play the sound? So I want to play the sound when the player is hitting something. So when there's tile data. Okay, quick test time. And there's an error. So I forgot to change what the player emits when they dig, because they're sending out a position, and we need them to be sending out just a scalar. So we can go ahead and just take out that position that they're sending out. And hopefully that fixes it. So we'll try again. Oh, and I forgot to finish this connect code. There we go. And speaking of forgetting stuff, I forgot to add it as a child of that Breakables node. And let's go ahead and have these emit a reference to self. And when it breaks, we'll do a queue free. Okay, there's another error. Oh, I tried to call it on a null. Why is that a null? Oh, so when Breakable got signaled in main, it deleted the tile cell, but it didn't clear out the mouse breakable reference. Okay, and there we go. Look, it's putting the little PNG on top, and the health isn't changing all of the different tiles. It's just changing the ones we click on. But there's still some things to fix. It's not clearing out the PNG every time. And the cursor is sticking around when there's no valid tile. Okay, so I can get rid of all the old code. And next, so we can make player dig an int. And so some of the things I need to do are going to be inside the physics process for me. I can go ahead and get rid of the comment line, the print line. So I don't always need to calculate the mouse tile atlas. So I can go ahead and only do that when the mouse tile changes. And if it did change, then I need to update the tile map cell that it's on. Alright, so if there's no tile atlas, which means the cell atlas is -1, -1, then we want to erase it at the old mouse tile. Otherwise, I want to erase it at the old one and set it at the new one. But by that point, I've assigned the new mouse tile, the mouse tile. So let's go ahead and put this before that, since I'm going to do it in both cases. Which means I can get rid of this other if and just turn that back to not equal to. Alright, that's a little cleaner. And it seems to be working. Alright, test this again. This is doing alright. Okay, I want to check that the digging strength works. So let's go ahead and put that in the player, and we'll have them send that with their digging signal emission. Okay, cool. So if I really high digging, I can just dig straight through stuff. Let's reload that. There we go. So if it's really high, it breaks it in 1 hit. And if it's kind of high, it breaks it in 2 hits. So it's working kind of as I intended. Okay, let's look back through how main handles the digging signal. So up to here, it seems fine. Oh, I need to clear out the cursor. Okay, so now when I dig something, the cursor goes away. Perfect. Alright, that looks a lot cleaner. And notice that this seems to have fixed the frame drops. Alright, next I want to make sure that I don't have that issue where digging the same tiles causes similar tiles to have HP loss. That seems to be working. Next, I want to implement a timer that makes these diggables go away after a little bit. 1, because Minecraft does it and I'm not original, and 2, so that we don't end up with like hundreds of these just sitting around. Alright, so we need to emit that signal on timeout, and I'm going to do a call deferred queue free, which is just queue free at the end of the frame. Oh, and I want to disable my area so that it doesn't receive mouse signals anymore. And let's go ahead and add a function in main to handle that signal. So if that was the mouse breakable, then we'll just set the mouse breakable equal to null. And I'm going to go ahead and export that timer in my breakable scene. So we'll throw that here, and that means I need to set it up to connect to that timer. There we go. Then it's going to auto start, and when the breakable takes damage, I want it to restart. And so I wasn't sure what I had to set on the timer. I thought it was time left, but you can't set that. And so then I thought it was wait time. So I went ahead and tried the set wait time function. And so here we go. There's an error. Oh, so I didn't, I need to set the process mode, not just set disabled. All right, whack something, wait a little bit, goes away. Whack something, wait a little bit, goes away. Next, I need to check if I whack a bunch and then whack the one in the middle. Nope, it's not resetting the timer. And so the easy fix for this was just calling start again with the same time. And wait a little bit, hit it again, wait a little bit, hit it again. And the breakable doesn't disappear. I'll go ahead and hit a row, hit the one in the middle, and the other ones disappear, and the middle one's left for a little longer. Alright, 4.3 came out, and it's time to make sure if this still works. There we go, I'm at 4.3, and I'm going to run it. I'm definitely not doing this for the YouTube algorithm so that I can put 4.3 in the tags. And look at that. Everything works as intended. So hopefully this fixes some of the problems that you guys had with my tutorial. But you know, if you find more, I'm always glad to make another video. I'm kind of glad because the frame drop issue's gone and the effect looks a lot cleaner. And speaking of more videos, you can have a little bit of a say in the next awful video that I make. So I was thinking about either talking about a roguelite I kind of made or talking about quad trees. So either of those, or if you want something else, you can always ask for something, and I usually try to accommodate. But I don't think I can go into too much depth on the roguelite because it was a pretty involved project. And I haven't really fleshed out the quad trees yet. So that's kind of why I'm asking, because I don't really know what direction I want to go. But anyways, that's it for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good one.